Every time I fall asleep, I wake up, I just pray that maybe I'll check my mobile and I'll get a call from my sister.
Big thanks for joining us tonight at 5:30. Residents at the apartment complex where one of two murdered University of South Florida students lived say they're now concerned about safety. I'm Frank Wiley.
And I'm Dave Wagner. Hisham Abu Gharbia is facing first-degree murder charges in connection with the death of his roommate, Zamil Limon, and his roommate's friend, Nahida Bristy.
Imagine waking up one morning, going about your day, stepping into a building on your university campus, and that being the last time anyone ever sees you alive. That is exactly what happened to two brilliant young students, thousands of miles away from home, chasing their dreams in America. And what unfolded over the next few days would shake an entire community to its core and break the hearts of two families in Bangladesh who were waiting for a phone call that never came. If you are new here, welcome to Vile Crimes. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss a video. Now let us get into this. Tampa, Florida. A city known for its warm weather, its university culture, and the kind of energy that draws young people from all over the world who want to build something with their lives. The University of South Florida sits right in the heart of Tampa, and it is home to thousands of international students who leave everything behind to study there. Among those students were two people whose story we are going to be talking about today, Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy. Now, before we get into what happened to them, I want you to understand who these two people actually were, because they were not just names in a news headline. They were real people with real dreams, real families, and real futures ahead of them. Zamil Limon was 27 years old, originally from Bangladesh. By every account, he was a quiet, gentle, hardworking young man. His brother Zubair Ahmed described him as someone who always had a smile on his face, someone who was decent and simple and never caused trouble. Zamil was pursuing his doctoral degree in geography, environmental science, and policy at USF, and he had been working on his thesis for 2 years. His research was genuinely fascinating. He was studying how generative AI could be used to monitor shrinking wetlands in South Florida. Think about that for a second. This was a man who was not just studying to get a degree. He was trying to use technology to protect the environment. After finishing his PhD, his plan was to go back to Bangladesh and become a university professor. That was the dream. That was what he was working toward every single day. Nahida Bristy was also 27, also from Bangladesh, and she was every bit as impressive. She was a doctoral student in chemical engineering, a field that requires serious intelligence and dedication. She had already earned a master's degree from the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology and a bachelor's degree from Noakhali Science and Technology University. Her LinkedIn profile described her as self-driven and skilled at problem-solving, passionate about learning new technology. But beyond the academic achievements, her brother Zahid Pranto painted a picture of a woman who was full of life. She loved to sing. She loved to cook and experiment with different recipes and make her brother try them. He called her the perfect sister, the perfect daughter, a jolly, smiling, happy soul. Zamil and Nahida had met at USF and formed a close bond. They started as friends, but over time, feelings developed between them. According to Limon's brother, they had even been thinking about marriage. Two young Bangladeshi students, far from home, finding comfort and connection in each other. It is the kind of story that should have had a beautiful ending. It did not.
On Friday, detectives located Zamil Limon's remains on the Howard Franklin Bridge. His roommate at Avalon Heights, Hisham Abu Gharbia, was taken into custody in connection with his death, along with Nahida Bristy, another USF student who has been missing for over a week. Court documents say blood and the student's belongings were found in the apartment and in the complex's dumpster.
No, they'll remind me that I have money owed on my account, but not when there's a murder.
Bamlak Tafasa has lived at Avalon Heights for 2 years. He says he used the roommate matching program.
Yeah, it was like Tinder. So like you would sign up on the apartment website, you would fill out your lease, you'll do everything, and then they'll put in preferences. So like if you're the type of person to study late, or if you're like a loud person, or if you're a clean person, you'll fill out like this form.
USF states that Avalon Heights is a privately owned and operated off-campus housing facility. It's owned by American Campus Communities. Their website notes that a criminal history, including offenses such as burglary, may result in denial of a housing application. However, Abu Gharbia has been arrested and charged with crimes including burglary. and has also been involved in domestic violence cases.
Also, we're all college students. You know what I'm saying? We're not fit to live around people like that.
Tafase hopes moving forward, off-campus housing complexes share this kind of information.
I would like to know more now, because now you never know who's been around you.
He believes without policy changes, this could happen again.
I don't think this is going to be my last time hearing somebody getting killed like this. So, I don't know. At this point, just lock your doors.
April 16th, 2026. That is the date everything changed. Now here is where I need you to pay close attention, because the timeline of that day is important. Zamil Limon was last seen at 9 in the morning at his apartment on Avalon Heights Boulevard in Tampa, just about 3 blocks from the USF campus. He lived there with his roommate, a 26-year-old man named Hisham Abugharbi. 1 hour later, at 10 in the morning, Nahida Bristy was seen on campus at the Natural and Environmental Sciences building. She walked into that building, and that was it. Nobody saw her again after that. Now think about this. 2 people, last seen within 1 hour of each other, on the same morning, in the same area. And then complete silence. No calls. No texts. No social media activity. Nothing. By the evening of April 17th, a family friend who had been trying to reach both of them became so worried that they called the University of South Florida Police Department. Missing person reports were filed for both Zamil and Nahida, and their names were entered into the National Missing Persons Database. At that point, nobody knew what had happened. But the people who loved them knew something was very, very wrong, because these were not the kind of people who just went off the grid. Both of them had family back in Bangladesh who they were in regular contact with. Disappearing without a word was completely out of character for either of them. So who is Hisham Abugharbi? Because that name is going to become very central to this story very quickly. Hisham was 26 years old and had previously attended USF as a student, studying for a business degree from 2021 to 2023. But by the time all of this happened, he was no longer enrolled at the university. He was simply Zamil's roommate. And on the surface, that might not seem significant. Roommates are just roommates, right? But as investigators started pulling on that thread, what they found underneath was deeply disturbing. Here is the thing that I think is going to make your stomach drop. 3 days before Zamil and Nahida disappeared, Hisham Abugharbi opened up ChatGPT and started typing questions. And these were not normal questions. He asked the AI what would happen if a human body was placed in a garbage bag and thrown in a dumpster. When the AI responded that it sounded dangerous, he did not stop. He typed back, how would they find out? The very next day, he was back on ChatGPT asking whether a car's VIN number could be changed and whether someone could legally keep a gun at home without a license. I want you to sit with that for a moment. This man was researching how to dispose of a human body and how to avoid being identified before these 2 students even disappeared. That is not a coincidence. That is premeditation. That is someone planning something terrible and using an AI chatbot as their research tool. When investigators searched the apartment that Hisham shared with Zamil, what they found confirmed their worst fears. There was blood. Not a small amount either. Investigators described the volume of blood found inside that apartment as the very reason they believed Nahida was also dead, even before her body was located. Inside Hisham's bedroom specifically, forensic testing revealed 2 spots on the carpet that were described in court documents as relatively human-sized, and both tested positive for blood. Investigators also found blood-stained clothing and a kitchen floor mat that had gone missing from the apartment. And underneath Hisham's bed, they found trash bags and duct tape. And it gets worse. Inside a trash compactor in the building, investigators found items belonging to both Zamil and Nahida. Zamil's wallet, his glasses, and Nahida's iPhone case. These were not items that ended up there by accident. On Friday, April 25th, the search teams got a devastating confirmation. Several northbound lanes of the Howard Franklin Bridge in Tampa were shut down as authorities recovered a body from the water. It was found inside heavy-duty utility trash bags. That body was later identified as Zamil Limon. The cause of death was determined to be multiple sharp force injuries. He had been stabbed. The community was heartbroken. Sheriff Chad Chronister stood before cameras and called it a deeply disturbing case that had shaken the entire community. And he was right, because here were 2 young people who had come to America to build a future, and one of them had been found discarded in trash bags on a bridge over Tampa Bay. The search for Nahida continued, And it would not be long before investigators found something else in those same waters.
Do I have Hisham Abu Garbi here?
Hisham Abu Garbi was shackled and wearing a protective gown during his first appearance in front of a Tampa judge Saturday. Friday, Hillsborough County deputies took him into custody after he came out of his residence shirtless and wearing a bath towel. He's facing 2 counts of first-degree murder with a weapon in the deaths of Florida doctoral students Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy.
On Sunday, April 27th, dive teams from both the Hillsborough County and Pinellas County Sheriff's offices went back into the waterways near the Howard Franklin Bridge, in the area around Interstate 275 and 4th Street North. And after hours of searching, they pulled a second set of human remains from the water. Investigators, the families, and frankly everyone following this case already knew in their hearts who it was. Nahida Bristy was still officially listed as missing and endangered, but the Pinellas County Medical Examiner's Office was working to confirm what everyone feared. 2 bodies. Same location. Same suspect. Hisham Abu Garbi was charged with 2 counts of murder in the first degree with a weapon, premeditated, in the deaths of both Zamil Limon and Nahida Bristy. He is currently being held in Hillsborough County Jail with absolutely no bond. His pretrial hearing was scheduled for April 28th. And here is something worth noting about this man's history, because it tells you something important. He had prior arrests for battery and burglary back in 2023. There were also 2 domestic violence petitions filed against him by a family member that same year. One resulted in a judge granting an injunction. So this was not someone with a clean, unblemished record. There were warning signs. Whether anyone connected those dots early enough is a question that deserves to be asked. Now I want to talk about the families for a second, because I think it is easy to get caught up in the crime scene details and the evidence and forget that at the center of all of this are 2 families in Bangladesh whose entire worlds collapsed. Zamil's brother Zubair Ahmed sent a message to CNN from Bangladesh that simply said, "Please keep my beloved brother in your prayers." That is a man who lost his brother to something completely senseless, in a country far from home, and all he could do was ask strangers to pray. Nahida's brother Zahid Pranto spoke to reporters and described her as someone whose dream was to come back to Bangladesh, work there, do something big, and contribute to society. He talked about the memories of her cooking and making him try her experiments in the kitchen. Those memories, he said, will stay with him until his last breath. Both Zamil and Nahida had planned to travel back to Bangladesh over their summer break. They were so close to that trip, so close to going home. And instead, their families are now trying to figure out how to bring them back in circumstances nobody could have ever imagined. The University of South Florida community is grieving. Fellow students and faculty have been left asking how something like this could happen right in the middle of a campus environment, in a place that was supposed to be safe. Bangladesh itself is mourning 2 of its brightest young minds. The vice-chancellor of Nahida's undergraduate university posted a public condolence message, calling her a talented and promising student, and saying her loss was an irreparable blow to the university and the nation. And that brings me to something I really want you to think about as we close out this story. Because this case raises some deeply uncomfortable questions that go beyond just what happened on April 16th. What drives a person to plan something this calculated and this brutal against people who were simply living their lives? What was the motive? Was it something personal between Hisham and Zamil? Was there a conflict we do not yet know about? And how does someone sit with ChatGPT days before a murder, typing out questions about disposing of a body, and still go through with it? What kind of psychological state does a person have to be in to cross that line? There is also something haunting about the fact that an AI tool was used in the planning of this crime. It responded with concern, it flagged the question as dangerous, and he just kept pushing. What does that tell us about the mindset of someone who is determined to do harm? And what responsibility, if any, do these platforms have when conversations like that happen? These are not questions with easy answers, but they are questions worth sitting with. As for where this case goes from here, the identification of the second body will be the next major development. After that, the focus will shift entirely to trial proceedings for Hisham Abu Garbi. Prosecutors have strong forensic evidence, a digital trail, and a clear timeline. But the legal process will take time, and the families will have to endure every painful moment of it. If you have any information related to this case, contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200. And to Zamil and Nahida, two people who came to America with nothing but ambition and good hearts. You deserved so much better than this. Your stories will not be forgotten. If this video moved you, please like it, share it, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think the motive was? Do you think the justice system will deliver the right outcome here? Let us talk about it. And if you are not subscribed to Vile Crimes yet, now is the time. There are more stories coming, and you do not want to miss them.